Fiesta Friday continues right here on KUAM, and in studio we have my good friend Ben Servino, who is going to educate us on a very important topic because, of course, the agency that you now lead is responsible for providing services to the island's disabled community. But I know the political correct way to refer to people with disabilities on our island community, that's kind of a sketchy topic for some people. What is the correct way to refer to that so that we can treat, our fellow Guamanians with the dignity that they so deserve, and to not almost like pander. I know it's the politically correctness is something that's always up in the air.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us here, Jason. Again, proper use of terminology is very, very important, especially for people with disabilities who want to be treated equally like everybody else. So there are basically two general rule of thumbs. When you're speaking about people with disabilities, always use person-first terminology. A person who is blind, a person who is deaf, a person who uses a wheelchair, even the law, Americans with Disabilities Act, they refer to the person first as Americans. The disability comes afterwards. The law, IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the school system focus on, again, the individual with the disability. So we always ask and encourage people to get away from using the H term, the word handicap, because it's very derogatory and very offensive, and it's, again, undignified. And a lot of people aren't aware where the H word came from. It basically came from after the war. A lot of soldiers were amputated because they stepped on a landmine, and then they either lost their limbs, their legs, and they couldn't walk. And after they got out of the hospital, they were trying to seek employment. And of course, a lot of employers would see them without any limbs, and they say, they can't work. So they wouldn't hire them. They discriminate against them. So they had no choice, and they take their cap, put it in their hand, and go out and start begging for money. That's
I did not know that.
Handicap came from, cap in hand. So they were, again, stigmatized as beggars. So with the advent of the Americans with Disabilities Act, they tried to get away from the term handicap and use person-first terminology. And then when you're talking about tangible man-made objects, we try to, again, encourage people to use the word accessible. So when you look at the parking out there, you don't say handicap parking, you call it accessible parking. You see a ramp, accessible door, accessible toilet, anything that's man-made and tangible, refer to it as accessible.
Now that I know we're starting to see a lot more of that in both venues in the public and private sectors. Like in a lot of malls now, they'll have like accessible parking, accessible restroom facilities here, or like stuff like that. So fortunately, society's starting to come around, and I'm glad we have you to set us straight and everything, because no one, especially us broadcasters and everything, appreciates this information more, because we want to be able to, like I said, treat individuals with disabilities in a dignified manner and as equals.
And as equals. Yeah. And a lot of people get really offended. I get offended if people refer to me as handicapped, and I say, hey, my name is Ben. I just happen to have a disability, but don't focus on my disability. Focus on me as an individual. And I'm very competitive. In fact, some of my friends forget that I have a disability, because I'm very, very competitive. I can play basketball, volleyball, bowling, and I'm very, very competitive. When I even go hiking, sometimes I leave them far behind. And when they come up to me and say, hey man, don't you have a disability? And then that's when reality kicks in. I say, oh yeah, now that you mention it, my back hurts, my leg's tired, I'm really sore.
And in that light, the disability is more on them, because they couldn't get past the fact that they have this preconceived notion of you, whereas, I've known you for years and everything, and I'd say, challenge somebody to find someone who is more learned than yourself.
Yeah. And a lot of people, some of my friends actually tease me when I park in the accessible parking. They say, what are you parking there for? Give it to somebody else that really needs it. And I'm saying, wait a minute, I really need it, and a reality check kicks in, and I can't walk a great distance. So I've accepted that fact.
Well, Ben, we do appreciate it. So thank you so much
for having me.
For setting us straight.
All right. Thank you.
Please stay tuned. We are back after.